Hello everyone, that Manga Kid here to do a review on Devil's Line. This is by Ryo Hanada. It is a vertical release, and it is now finally complete at 13 volumes. Now I found out when reading the end of volume 13, there will be another volume released sometime next year that is an extra stories, side stories kind of volume, but the main story is complete in these 13 volumes, and I didn't want to wait until next year to do a review on the series when it's the only thing left to be released is a side story extra bonus volume, because I think that this is a good series that I'd like to recommend to people to pick up now, especially since it's vertical and uh, we all know how vertical publishing works, and sometimes things go out of print and they do not print more of them. So, yeah, I figured I might as well do the video now than it says released like next spring, so that could be 8 months from now potentially until we get this final extra bonus stories volume. So anyway, 13 volume series about this girl here. Her name's Tsukasa. She's a human, and in this world, there are also things called devils, which basically are kind of like vampires. They do drink and are attracted to human blood. They are also, when they're aroused, they'll transform. So when they're aroused, when they smell blood, when they're angry, they transform. You can see kind of here, they'll grow these like talons. Their eyes change color. They turn into a monster, basically a devil. But they appear as humans in kind of everyday life. And so Anzai, the guy on the cover of Volume 1, is a half devil. He has a human mother and a devil for a father. And basically, he saves Tsukasa, I believe, at the beginning of the story. And then, obviously, they kind of fall in love, sort of. But there's trouble to be had with trying to have a relationship with a devil. And so, what I really enjoy about this story is that it has action, it has excitement, and it has a lot of violence. It has a lot of uh, you know problems in terms of society, but it also is a romance, and it does actually kind of have that romance right in the story that isn't just like, oh, this is a shoujo or this is a shonen. It kind of mixes a bunch of different uh topics and things together into one well-rounded story. And so Anzai is a half devil. He works for the police department that employs devils to help with, I believe in particular, they help with kind of devil related crimes. And so they help out because humans just fighting devils doesn't always work because the devils are stronger. So they employ some devils to help maintain order. But I believe that devils are not the devils are not known about widely in society per se. Uh, but throughout the series, it kind of becomes more of an issue of like us versus them. Humans, there's an agency trying to wipe out devils completely. They shouldn't be around. They think that they need to just snuff them all out. They don't see them as humans, whereas the devils are trying to fight for human rights because they feel they live human lives for all intents and purposes. Most of them, the ones who just want to live. There are some devils who cause trouble intentionally, but for the most part, they live just normal human lives. They just happen to have this uncontrollable transformation that happens when they're aroused or angry or whatever. And so, yeah, it's not a new sort of concept. You see very similar story in Ajin, Demi-Human, in that it's like an us versus them sort of story, kind of akin to Parasite as well. And it's not a new concept by any means, but I really did enjoy this story. I found it to be compelling. I found that the both sides of the argument of devils shouldn't exist, we should get rid of them all, versus like they should have human rights, they should be able to live in society. Uh, but how do we do that safely and protect everyone when sometimes devils lose control and end up killing people? So yeah, it's very interesting, and I like the romance aspect of it. That was honestly my favorite part because I'm a shoujo person. But uh, the fights were interesting and fun. The characters were interesting and fun. The thing about this series, though, is I found it very hard to distinguish between some of the characters. The main characters are very particular looking, but outside of them, there are a lot of characters that look very similar, and I think it's just that this mangaka draws faces and hair very similarly. So it was very hard to figure out who was who, and it does jump around a lot. You jump between the devil side, the side of the folks who are trying to kill all the devils, that whatever that organization is called, I don't really remember. The police force and everything, and a lot of the characters look the same. And I found it so difficult to tell who was talking and who was who and where we were at this moment because of all the jumping around. It made it quite confusing in these mid volumes. Uh, the other problem was I was reading this volume to volume. I was reading them as they came out. So when I first started purchasing the series, I believe there was 6 volumes out at the time, and then from there I was purchasing them as they came out, and I was reading them volume to volume. And when you wait months in between volumes and then you start reading, you forgot what happened and you're trying to remember who's who and what's what, and I just found it to be very difficult. Um, and I don't know that if I had read them all at once, it would have made a difference. I think that the fact that the characters all look very similarly really, really hindered this story because it is quite a complex. Uh, there's a lot of characters and a lot of different points of view and different things happening all at one time. And when you have that much going on, you can't have the characters look identical to each other. You just can't, because then you can't tell what's happening. And so that was my downside with this series, but I think that if I was to reread it, I would understand some more. Um, yeah, I did enjoy it. There was a point in the middle volumes where I was trying to think if it was worth it, but then I found myself, like, I was pre-ordering these volumes, and I did find myself excited to read the new volume every time it came out, and that was enough for me. I think I'll enjoy rereading it at some point here, but yeah, I really like the art style. I think that very, it's kind of different, but also very cool. Uh, the books themselves are in the very small form factor that Vertical does, which I really enjoy. Um, yeah, I like it a lot. And I enjoyed the romance aspect, and I enjoyed that it wasn't just like between the main two that there was romance happening. There was romances happening between tons of different people in all the different organizations and amongst the different characters, and it just felt normal. Like, these people are all dealing with this very serious topic, this very serious fight, this battle that's happening in their city and amongst their people, yet, you know, they're still dealing with personal relationships. And I liked that this wasn't just, it's not like a shoujo where the focus is on the fact that it's a devil and a human trying to be in a relationship, and it's not just an action series where they're focusing on the war between the devils and the humans. It was a mixture of both, and it does, there are downtimes when you're in a situation like this where you have a ton of, I don't want to say war, but there is conflict happening. It isn't always conflict all the time, and there are down times where you spend time with friends or you spend time with loved ones or whatever, and you still have to deal with your personal life. And I enjoyed the my favorite part of this story was the personal life aspects that were mixed in amongst the madness that was occurring. So I'm sure, and the reason I'm confident about doing this review before that final extra stories volume comes out is I'm sure I'm going to love that extra stories volume, because all of the little side stories that happen in between the main story There's little like couple page stories and ones at the end, bonus contents at the end of most of these volumes. It's so funny. The humor is wonderful, and it's cute and it's adorable, and it's I just really enjoyed it. And so I'm sure I'll enjoy the extra volume, but I'm just trying to find one that has. Yeah, so they'll do like a previously unpublished, and it's just a random little side story at the end of the volume about whatever character. And I really enjoyed it. So I highly recommend checking out Devil's Line if you like romance mixed in with action and comedy and uh an us versus them. They're different, so they're bad kind of seeing both sides of an argument sort of story. Uh yeah, and these volumes are really nice, and again it's vertical, so you never know how long something's going to be in print, but it's been a couple years now since the first volume was released, and I'm really happy to have almost pretty much all of it except that extra volume at this point, which I will buy when it comes out. But yeah, if you've read Devil's Line, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. If you have any questions about it, please let me know. And yeah, thanks for watching.